Good evening and welcome to the June 12th, 2023 meeting of the Planning Board of the Town of Chatham. My name is Catherine Halpern. I'm Chair of the Planning Board of the Town of Chatham. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and will be available shortly hereafter for scheduled and on-demand viewing on any smartphone or tablet device. I do need to ask if anyone else is recording the meeting, please notify us. I'll give you a few seconds in case you're connected remotely. I don't see any hands raised. And please note that this meeting is being conducted in a hybrid format. Pursuant to Governor Healy's March 29th, 2023 signing of the Acts of 2023, extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, GL C30A 20, until March 31, 2025, this meeting of the Chatham Planning Board is being conducted in person and via remote participation. Every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in the order. A reminder that persons who would like to listen to this meeting while it is in progress may do so by calling the phone number 1-508-945-4410, and the conference ID number is 567-513-692#. That's 567-513-692#. Or you may also join the meeting online using Microsoft Teams through the link that is in the agenda that is posted on the town website. While this is a live broadcast and simulcast on Channel 18, despite our best efforts, we may not be able to provide for real-time access, and as I mentioned, we will post a record of this meeting on the town's website as soon as possible. So let's begin with a roll call of board members. Bob Wirtschafter.
Bob Wirtschafter, present.
Art Spru.
Art Spru, present.
Warren Chain.
Warren Chain, present.
Megan Story.
Megan Story, present.
And Charlene Greenhalgh absent. And Bob Dubus.
Bob Dubus, present.
And this is Catherine Halpern. I'm also present. And then I'll also ask, are there any board members who need to recuse themselves from any items on tonight's agenda? All right, so let's go to our first agenda item, and that is the minutes from the May 22nd, 2023 meeting. Does anyone have any changes or additions or corrections? If there are none, could I have a motion to approve the minutes as drafted?
I'll move to accept the minutes as drafted.
Thank you.
I second.
Thank you. We'll do a roll call vote. Bob Wirtschafter.
Bob Wirtschafter, approve.
Art Spru.
Art Spru, approve.
Warren Chain.
Warren Chain, approve.
Megan Story.
Megan Story, approve.
Bob Dubus.
Bob Dubus, approve.
This is Catherine Halpern. I also approve. Thank you very much. So next we'll go to our next item on the agenda, which is a site plan review. This is a site plan amendment for 595 Main Street, Unit 5. This is for a change of use. Do I have someone presenting or? Thank you.
And while Ms. Tolley is making her way to the microphone, I can introduce this a little bit for you. So this is a very minor site plan amendment. In 2014, the Planning Board did a master plan of the properties located at 595 Main Street, also known as High Wheeler Square. And since that time, there have been additional properties included in that overall mixed-use development. And technically, the language of the site plan review bylaw requires that any change of use be reviewed by this board. So even though there is no changes to the exterior lighting, there's no greater impact to the parking requirements, it's before you tonight. And so I've worked with Kelly to try to make this as painless as possible. But after this meeting, I'd love to entertain some direction from the board about a potential site plan amendment that would allow for administrative review for these types of situations.
Yes.
Can I say a few words on this?
You may. Please go ahead.
Am I right and correct
You need your mic on.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
That these two buildings are owned by the same person.
Yes.
It's kind of an in-house swap of area.
That's
Most people are, even though there are a few buildings, they're considered one one plan, one lot, one unit.
Right, so it's
So
one.
this is just like a swapping of rooming houses or rooms in a rooming house.
Essentially, I mean, there's multiple buildings within the mixed-use complex, but exactly, it's transferring one existing use to another existing space, and it's personal household service moving into a retail, and how we consider parking under the bylaw for both of those uses, it's the same calculation.
All right, thank you.
All right, thanks. Ms. Tully, did you have anything you wanted to present to the board? So why don't I just ask the board if you have any questions or comments? Yeah. So could I have a motion to approve?
Wait a minute, I have a question. Of
Yes.
course I have a question.
Okay.
Oh,
Hi.
is this retail space slightly larger than the existing one?
Yes, it is.
Does it, so,
We're
you're-
going
you're
from
in-
500 square feet roughly to about 1,500 square feet.
and so what does that give you extra?
I'm going to additionally put in 2 extra chairs.
Okay.
That's,
okay.
that's really all.
But maintaining the same number of employees.
We
as
have the
I
same number
understand
of employees. It's really not doing much of anything, just a bigger space. Plus, I went from renting in the unit I was in to purchasing, so it's
Oh,
just.
excellent.
Yeah, so it's just basically me buying a unit out of the space, but we're in the same condominium as you had said.
Oh, excellent. That's a good thing. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Great. Any other questions?
I move to approve the bylaw change or the siting,
Site plan amendment.
site plan amendment.
Bob Dubus, second that.
Great. We'll do a vote. Bob Wirtschafter,
Bob Wirtschafter, approve.
Art Spru,
Art Sprue, approve.
Warren Chain,
Warren Chain, approve.
Megan Story,
Megan Story, approve.
Bob Dubus.
Dubus, approve.
And this is Catherine Halpern. I also
Thank
approve,
you.
and we wish you the best of luck.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
All right. Next item on our agenda is also a site plan amendment. This is for 0 and 152 Enterprise Drive, First Light Boatworks and Marine, and I think Dave Clark is presenting. Please go ahead.
Good evening, David Clark, Clark Engineering, and James Donovan, one of the principals of First Light Boatworks. The board saw this a few years back, largely the same project. They've made progress. They built one of the buildings. They went to install the retaining wall that was shown on the original site plan and found it a little difficult to put it in the exact footprint. So that changed the configuration of one of the buildings. And we're also here to add one more building. So these are just strictly storage buildings. If you know their business, they deal primarily with wooden boats, and they prefer to store them in the wintertime undercover. So there's boat racks in the existing structure. The structure gives shelter to the boats. No boat building, repair, or anything of that sort goes on the property. It's strictly storage. I did provide drainage calculations. We are adding a couple of drainage structures because we're increasing the impervious nature of the entire lot, and those are strictly there to handle the runoff from the 2 new buildings. I think I spelled out all the criteria in my
did.
my cover letter, so I won't have to repeat that, I hope. But I'd be happy to answer questions, and again, Jim's here to answer any of the operational questions.
I see Bob Dubus has a question. I also have a question, but Bob, did you want to go ahead? All right. Yes,
Sorry, I keep forgetting.
your letter was very complete and very much appreciated. I have a couple of questions, and then we'll see also, there may be board members who have questions. Could you just show us graphically, you made a comment that the building coverage is increasing because you're adding a building, but the lot coverage is decreasing because you've added the other lots. But can you just show us how that's working? I'd just like to see it really clearly. And were these additional lots
Well,
They're under the same ownership, correct? They must be, yeah.
yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes. So in the industrial district, there is no criteria for building coverage.
Right.
So there's the new building that's more than what was on the original site plan. All of this area was proposed to be gravel, and this boat rack is actually a little smaller, I believe, than what was on the original permitted plan. This is the retaining wall that was installed. Due to the neighbor's building, they couldn't get that close to the property line and not undermine their site. So they got as close to Enterprise as they could, and as close to the neighbor on this side.
But
think-
can you just show me which are the two, or the added lots that were not part of the plan before?
What are, the lot
Maybe
line
I'm-
is not
maybe
shown
I'm-
on the plan. I think it
Yeah.
goes diagonally across. I can't remember.
Okay.
I might have the old site plan here.
I didn't think I was imagining not seeing.
Oh, yeah.
It's possible I imagine it, but I didn't think so.
Yeah,
Just
so
like to understand it, that's all.
the lot line goes there and then to, kind of like to that building corner.
Dave, excuse me, David, that's one lot now, correct? Or is it still two lots?
It's still two lots, yeah.
Still two lots, okay.
Yeah.
All right, and then I had another question.
Mm-hmm.
This is sort of a technicality, but I just wanted to understand about the retaining wall, because you made a comment that it was not built according to what was shown on the original plan that was approved. It's just that we have this issue that, if something is different, if something is done differently than what was on the original approved plan, we actually need to review that, and we would need to give it our approval now. So you
It's-
made a comment, or maybe Ryan made the comment, that the retaining wall was not built according to what was approved on the original plan. So I just want to understand that really clearly, what happened.
I can speak to that.
Yeah, if you want to put the plan back up, I didn't think I was involved when it was constructed, but I didn't think you needed permission to build a smaller retaining wall than what was approved.
You actually do.
Really?
I think that's one of our standard conditions that we put on every site plan, that any deviation from the approved plan means that it's not the approved plan. So yes, that means that you would need to come back to the planning board to get that change
So
approved.
we're talking right here in this corner. The original permitted plan showed the wall coming right to the property line here, and then following the property line to the north. And like I said, but Jim can
Okay,
speak
so
to
how is it different from what was on the original
So,
plan?
yeah, at the time, when we were looking to do that, so we basically moved the retaining wall further onto our property and further away from Enterprise
Okay.
Drive to make it less of an extreme situation. It was gonna be, we were gonna have to have 20-foot sheet pile to hold up Enterprise Drive, and it was just too expensive. So at the time, I did speak with Jay Briggs about that, and he said because we're moving it further away from the road and adding more green space, and that he approved that change at the time.
So you did build the retaining wall, you just changed its location.
Correct.
Somewhat,
And we
okay.
basically built it as planned as far as the structure itself goes.
Okay, all right, that helps. Can I get other questions from the board? Bob Dubus, did you have
I'll
questions?
let the board go through and
Okay.
see if some of mine are
Bob,
answered.
Arthur, do you have questions? Okay,
I did go out, take a look at the site. The materials and the structure for the retaining wall are identical to what was the original plan. There was an alignment change on it, so.
Correct, yeah.
I guess as part of our process here, we can incorporate that is part of an approval.
Yes,
I
it
didn't see any
can.
issues with it. It's a very sound wall. Your stormwater is right up to date. Thanks a lot, David. Just a couple of things. He- The buildings, I'm assuming they're going to have some, maybe electrical, maybe water service. If you could show.
No water.
No water?
No.
Electrical service to show where the proposed line is coming in on the plan. That's really about the only comment that I have.
Okay, yeah.
And I'll defer to another board member about the other utility.
Warren, did you have some questions or comments?
Just a couple. The issue of parking, I think, is well addressed in your proposal, as really not being relevant because the public isn't allowed in the back except by invitation only, and there's open space, and the forklift needs room to maneuver, et cetera, et cetera. When I was over there inspecting or looking around, notwithstanding the statement that there's no need for parking, there were 5 trucks inside the fence in addition to the front, or to the forklift. And there's room for them to park, it's not an issue. But I just wanted to have a little clarification on whether any parking needs to be identified on the plan. If in fact you're going to have 5 trucks parked there all the time.
No, that would be a very rare incident. I think you might have shown up when a larger boat was being moved and they needed some help there. But in general, the vast majority of the time there'll be no vehicles parked there. But when we are moving boats 1 to 2, it's conceivably could be more. But that's the only real parking usage is when we're actively moving those boats. So.
And just one other clarification for my benefit, on Enterprise Drive, what is it, Outermost Harbor Marine has a building up on Enterprise Drive that's sort of never sitting on your retaining wall, I think, right? That's not part of your business, correct?
That's, I think, at least partially owned by Bill Marsh, the red building there. That's essentially on top of our retaining wall.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's separate from outermost, but that's not part of our property.
But what you're now proposing doesn't have any conflict or interaction with that building that's on Enterprise?
No, other than that, they're roughly 11 or 12 feet apart.
Okay. I was also going to ask about showing where the utility line for electric service and whether there would be any water in it, but that's already answered, so that's it for me.
Thank you, Warren. Megan?
I have no questions.
Thank you. Bob Dubus?
All right, come to me now. David, I got a question for you. How come you're showing a non-existent water line through the buildings?
They've showed up on the previous site plan, so
So where's the water come from now?
I don't know.
See, you could have
Because-
asked the right person, and the right person would have told you.
Because town water didn't originally go all the way down to Enterprise. That hydrant that's across the cul-de-sac is fed from
Correct.
up the hill
But if you
on
look really
Creative Arts.
carefully,
Not
you'll
Creative.
see a trench of about maybe 120 feet where Mr. Marsh and the people that own the big blue building had to extend it because somebody bought the lot next door and there was a water main in the middle of it. So it comes from the hydrant towards going down Enterprise Drive, or going back up Enterprise Drive. It goes as far as Scotty's old place.
Yeah, that's what I thought, and
So-
then the hydrant on
You know,
Zebra.
you can ask the guy that knows sometimes. Only pulling your leg. Now, but I do have one thing that I've been waiting a long time for, and that's when you have these buildings done, you will have an apron where you drive from the circle out or in, okay?
An asphalt apron.
Correct.
over there.
It was in your to-do list the first time, but because you never finished it, we could not say too much about it. But now you're going to finish it, so please put an asphalt apron in.
Understood.
Thank you.
All right. Yes, Arthur.
Just one other thing, David. I don't know how tall Building 2 is, but the overhead service, electrical service, the Building 1 cuts across it. So these are tall buildings, at least the Building 1 is real tall, so I don't know if there's going to be a conflict there and if that's going to be relocated. If that's the case, just show where the new service is going, okay?
Great.
Okay.
Okay. Any other comments or questions from the board? Yes.
I move to accept the proposal or the
To
plan.
approve the site plan amendment. Yes.
That's what I said.
And I just want to ask you, we'll include our three standard conditions. Did you want to include the apron as a condition?
Yes, please.
So we'll add a fourth condition regarding the apron. And Arthur, did you want to include?
Well, I think we should just acknowledge that the retaining wall has been adjusted and it is acceptable.
I don't know whether we need to acknowledge.
I watched it being constructed, and
Yeah.
they did a very, very good job.
Okay.
The person that did it's very qualified, and they would have lost part of Enterprise Drive, which wouldn't have been pretty. So they did the right thing by moving it.
Okay. I'm going to confer with Ryan for the board to acknowledge the change in the location of the retaining wall. Do we add, we wouldn't add that as a condition, or would we add that? Can we add that as a condition?
I can note the date of the as-built.
Okay.
In the amended statement of conditions, if that's helpful.
Okay, great. But we do want to add a fourth condition to our standard about the apron. All right, so,
And also that the approved plans show the proposed utilities to the buildings that are, whatever utilities go to the building, that they show it on the approved plan.
Okay.
okay, great. So we have 5 conditions. All right. So may I have a motion to approve the site plan amendment with the 5 conditions as
I make the
proposed?
motion to approve the site plan with the 5 additional things on it.
5 conditions as proposed, and can I have a?
Art Sprue, second.
All right. Bob Wirtschafter,
Bob Wirtschafter, approve.
Art Sprue,
Art Sprue, approve.
Warren Chain,
Warren Chain, approved.
Megan Story,
Megan Story, approve.
Bob Dubus,
Bob Dubus, approve.
and this is Catherine Halpern. I also approve. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, great. Thank you. So the next item on our agenda, we have a couple of requests from Zoning Board of Appeals for recommendations regarding driveways located in a conservancy district. And we have Thad Eldridge presenting, and the first one is 2 Scallop Terrace. So do you have plans you can show us, and can you just show us very clearly what the request is? I have to admit that I couldn't tell by looking at the plans that we got, that are small and are in black and white, what was the old driveway, what is the new driveway, what is the change? So can you show that for us?
Sure.
Yeah.
For the record, Thad Eldridge, East Southeast. The change is very small. When this septic system was installed originally, the requirement was for a larger field than necessary. We'll be taking off a little bit of stone at the end. It will still be adequate for the disposal. And then the wall that exists currently comes out this way a little bit. We're going to bring the wall back to open up this area so that they can actually get a car in on their own property rather than driving around.
All right.
I don't know if sheet 2 is in there.
Yep. I think Annie's sharing at the moment.
Oh, very good. So you can see the old wall comes out here. So they have to drive over the neighbor's property in order to get into their parking area. This will open it up so that they can stay on their side.
Can you show me
actually-
exactly how will they drive in now, after they?
They drive in now coming around this bit of wall. That
And-
wall will be pulled back, so they'll be able to drive straight
So
into their own property.
they'll drive straight through?
Yes.
Okay, got it,
And they can stack 2 cars up in here.
got it. So
did she-
it is a very small change.
Yes, and did sheet 4 make it?
No, I don't
Okay.
think so.
Yes, I
Oh,
believe.
very good. There is an old driveway road something. It doesn't appear on the land court plans. We're not sure what happened out here way back in the day. It's mostly broken asphalt. There are some larger pieces. The proposal is to remove that as part of conservation mitigation. Nobody is parking there anyway. They will park there during the construction, and then it's basically restoring the area back to a path. So, not
And-
sure if you need to comment on that one, but it is a benefit to the environment and getting rid of some old asphalt that was there a long time ago.
Mr. Dubus?
Ed, is that their property?
It is,
Where that driveway, where the old road is
yes.
belonged by
The
that one
house
person? Or is it
owned-
belonged by?
They own this and they own this section right here.
That's where Horn used to put all his boats and storage gear
Okay,
many moons ago. But, so they own it, that's good, that's good. So they'll take that out and let it go natural?
yeah, so a little bit of regrading with some sandy loam, some grass seed over it, and there are plants. We're showing that we're not gonna take out the section here because it's broken and there's substantial vegetation growing through. The rest of it is just grass growing on top of an inch or two of sand that's blown
Oh,
in.
that's good, that'll clean it up. Good, thank them for us.
Any other questions for Thad about this particular project, Arthur?
I went out there and took a look at this, and I agree that adjusting the driveway width entrance makes an awful lot of sense. I mean, the criteria in the bylaws says the construction and maintenance of a driveway of minimum legal and practical width. Well, the width that was on there is, I'm not even sure if it was 6 feet, so that's really not practical. So the adjustment and with the change in the location of where the wall is provides, I think, 9 or 10 feet. That would be certainly a practical width. So I think they meet the intent of what the bylaw says.
Great, thank you, Arthur. Anyone else? Any other questions? Then I would propose, may I have a motion that we send a positive recommendation to the Zoning Board of Appeals regarding this driveway in a conservancy district. I couldn't think of the word change. It's not really addition, it's not much of an addition. Change in this driveway in the conservancy district. May I have a motion?
I move that we send a positive recommendation to the zoning board regarding this alteration of driveway.
Yes. May I have a second?
Art Sprue, I'll second.
And include the removal of that. Isn't that part of the recommendation that we,
We approved the
yeah.
gravel, the old asphalt.
Oh, are we approving that as well? I mean,
I
that wasn't.
think I
don't-
would like to.
Okay.
add
It doesn't-
that as
Like to
part
add
of
a
the-
comment?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, we can add that comment. And also our standard comment that the driveway is constructed such to allow for the unobstructed flow of water and is of pervious material. That's just a standard comment we put in all of our recommendations regarding driveways in the Conservancy District to ZBA. So yes, we can add that comment. And so the motion has been amended, so, and seconded with the amended wording that Bob Wirtschafter.
I agree.
Okay, great. So let's do our vote. Bob Wirtschafter,
Bob Wirtschafter, approve.
Art Spru,
Art Sprue, approve.
Warren Chain,
Warren Chain, approved.
Megan Story,
Megan Story approved.
Bob Dubus,
Bob Dubus, approve.
and this is Catherine Halpern. I also approve. Thank you, Thad.
Thank you.
So the next one is Cranberry Lane. And this one also, because we received black and white plans, it was a little hard to see exactly what was going on, but I understand there's some color plans that can be shown, and maybe you can explain exactly what's happening here.
Sure, this one is more complex.
Okay,
We have a property that's not completely in the floodplain. We have a floodplain that comes through. So this section of property is all in the floodplain. And then on the other side, there's a bed. The proposal is to rebuild the house. The house is currently within the floodplain. We'll be pulling it out just by a few feet. The existing driveway that's down below they would like to keep, change slightly. They're proposing to put in grass pave at this bend here so that they can turn around. There's no formal turnaround at the end of Cranberry. They would like to access their garage and their building. And we had the choice of either coming through the middle of the property, through a lot of floodplain, or coming off of Far End Lane and then zipping in. That's the shortest section through the floodplain in order to access the house directly. This is a little steep, so we've been proposing a pervious paver. And then it's shell above, and down here it's dirt, shell stone, basically what's out there now, a little more formalized. I believe stone is the preferred surface.
So I just want to ask you, so they're basically adding a second driveway, but can you just with the pointer or whoever has the pointer show us the section of this second driveway that's actually in the floodplain?
That little bit there, probably
because-
15 feet.
Yeah, the bylaw specifically states that there should be no alternative means of access. For a driveway in the Conservancy District, there should be no alternative means of access, and as Arthur just quoted, it should be of minimum legal width and so on. So in this case, we have a second driveway being proposed that, strictly speaking, we shouldn't allow a second driveway, but it's really only that little bit at the end that is actually in the floodplain. So I'm just going to ask the board for comments.
In order to get a driveway to the house, we would be coming right through the middle of the property.
You'd
and
have to
having
add a lot
longer
more.
section.
Yeah, I understand. So Arthur, you had a comment?
The driveway that's, I think north is up on this, so the west driveway there, that is actually, I think 90% of it is not in the floodplain at all.
Correct.
That's in what is called Zone X in the FEMA maps, which essentially, it's not part of the 100-year floodplain. It's a different designation. So so even though there's that short section there that does cut across it, if you provide a driveway from the east one, which is in the floodplain, it is going to be much more harmful.
Right. I
So,
understand.
and in this particular case, again, 90% of that western driveway is outside the floodplain, and it doesn't fall within the same issues. Now, if you want to take issues to the east one, that's fine. There's some minor changes associated with the limits of the dirt driveway, but pretty much it's what it is. It's hard to define exactly where the driveway is when you go out there and look at it. I mean, what they're showing there is pretty much what you see when you go out there and look at this. So it's an unusual situation. It took me a long time just to understand where all the lines were associated with zoning and all of that, but the west one is it's legit as far as I can see. If that was in the floodplain, that'd be a different ballgame.
It would be, yes. Definitely it would be. Other points, Megan?
It seems to me like they've gone out of their way to create something that is not in the floodplain. I mean, because in theory, you could have done it from the other driveway. Would have been ugly, but you could have done it.
And with everything, I mean, we're pulling the building out of the floodplain. This building is being pulled out of the floodplain.
And the tennis courts are being drastically reduced, and that's a huge amount of impervious area that's being reduced on the property.
Good,
So
yes.
I mean, it seems like they've done maybe not to the letter of the law, but certainly to the thought behind it.
The maximum extent practicable.
Yes.
Thanks, Thad.
Any other questions or points? Bob
go ahead, Bob.
Wojciechowski or Bob Dubus?
How much area are they adding on to the buildings?
This is just for our information, because
Sure, they're going from 2740 to 4400 almost. So there's 1,700 square
Doubling the size
feet.
of the building?
Yes.
Any of that in a floodplain, all of it?
Everything is coming out of the floodplain. The existing dwelling currently exists in the floodplain here.
They're moving that out?
They're taking that out, restoring the bank, and then building the new outside of the floodplain.
Okay. I'm fine with that. I thought it was in the floodplain.
Board Schefter.
The original driveway, what is in the, do you enter in the southern portion of it and come up
Enter through
right
here.
here?
Yes.
What is at the northern end? It looks like it keeps going into the next property, or?
It does. Woody Foster has his driveway that comes over, and it does loop back around.
Is that a practical? I was thinking that we would take the 10 feet of that we're giving you over here and take 10 feet off that northern end there, and just make it a little bit more of so you could come in and turn around and go back out. I'm not,
Bob, let me interrupt you for 1 minute. The people that live down there, they live close-knit. They were not huge places at one time. They were small places, and over the years, they grew. And everybody down there knew everybody, and everybody drove wherever they could drive. And so like it's like a little
yeah.
campground. That's about the best. They're all individual little campgrounds. When you say that, and everybody knows everybody, and everybody drives to everybody's place, and it's tight down there if you went down there.
And at our on-site with conservation, we had a dozen neighbors with us. I mean, it was one of the best-attended conservation on-sites that I've been to.
And Bob, the tennis court reduction is,
Yeah,
it's a significant reduction. It
buying it.
overcompensates for anything that has to do with the house or any of the other areas. There was a mitigation that was offered as part of that.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? Then I would also ask for a motion that we send, with our standard wording, included, that we send a positive recommendation. Yes?
I would just like a clarification.
Sure.
As to what approvals are relevant for getting a second driveway that's in the conservation area.
Strictly according to the
strictly a
bylaw.
Conservation Commission
In a
thing?
hypothetical case where an applicant would be asking for a second driveway in a conservancy district, I think strictly speaking, that is not in compliance with the bylaw as it stands now. And if this board, and again, this is not about this case, this is a hypothetical case, if this board were asked to give a recommendation to the ZBA, we would likely have to state that it's not in compliance with the bylaw.
Okay. Because it just did occur to me that in order to make that driveway, you're going to have to just bulldoze the woodland that's there, really, which is all in the conservation area, the conservation zone. And so I thought, it wasn't clear to me whether the Conservation Commission, given that it's a second driveway, whether they would look favorably on it. And if they would not, then it would mean there likely would need to be some significant changes to the plan that we're being asked to okay.
We're not being asked to okay this plan. We're just being asked to give a recommendation to the Zoning Board of
Right.
Appeals regarding the construction of a driveway in the Conservancy District. So
No,
we-
I understand
yeah.
that, but
And
if
if I
it was
may-
likely that that wouldn't be approved, then we would be giving a positive recommendation for something that would then need to come back to us. I'm just looking for
If I may,
clarification.
So if it wasn't approved through CONSCOM, it wouldn't be here with us tonight.
right.
It's already been approved. Okay, well, that would be
We've
the
been to
answer.
conservation, and the plants out here, it's predominantly non-native invasive plant species. So we're actually, Blue Flax Design will be implementing a land management plan. Quite a bit of the vegetation is going to be removed out here.
Okay,
as
well, if
part of that.
CONSCOM has already approved it, then that really addresses that concern.
Okay.
And Bob, just to your question, when I went down and looked at it, if you ask what's on the northern end of that driveway, well, he really just goes right out to the beach berm and the beach, goes to the water.
So why don't we shorten it 5?
Well, because I would think the owner is going to want to be able to get to the water you know, if he happens to have a trailer with a boat on it that he wants to get out there, or who knows what.
It's on the
But-
next adjacent site, too.
Right, that driveway does exist, it comes around, and while everybody follows their own driveway to get to their homes, if there's an emergency vehicle coming out here, they're gonna come around this way.
I do hope they
Small
regrade.
You can get lost just trying to get to this place.
I'm okay, but I want the approval to note that the 15 feet of driveway that we are approving is because there was a significant reduction in the tennis court. Otherwise, we wouldn't approve it. I mean,
I mean, strictly speaking, our purview is not over to my understanding, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but our purview is not over the tennis court.
it isn't, but
Yeah.
it's why we said yes.
I don't know that it's why
don't
I
think-
said yes.
I don't think it's why I said
was-
yes.
So I think similar to the last application, you could make a note that commends the applicant for reducing the size of the tennis court the way you're commending them for reducing the size of that previous existing driveway.
Right, yes.
And again, the alternative for one driveway would be coming right through the middle of the property, so, you
Yeah.
know.
I mean, essentially what we're doing here, strictly speaking, in our recommendation to the ZBA is we're allowing for a small section of driveway to be built in the Conservancy District to the west. We're saying we're okay with that in this particular case. And maybe there's two reasons. One reason is because the rest of that driveway is not in the Conservancy District. And it's certainly better than any alternative that was presented. And certainly the reduction of the paved area for the tennis court is a plus, but strictly speaking, the tennis court is not under our jurisdiction.
I mean, I think it's probably better to just say that that's the only driveway, and that other thing that is maybe a road is just the road. I mean, there really is only one driveway into that property, and that's why we're approving it. The other thing is, I don't know, is it a driveway?
But they didn't
You
ask.
described it more as a road, that people drive around it.
It's barely there. But
Yeah,
Yeah.
so, all right.
You're
I'm
talking
gonna
about the one
Looks a
on
lot
the
like my
east.
driveway.
We're gonna approve this.
Let's not dwell on this too
Recommend.
long.
Yes, I'm gonna ask for a motion, which includes our standard, we always include the wording about that the driveways are constructed such to allow for the unobstructed flow of water and of pervious material, but I would like to ask for a motion for a positive recommendation to the Zoning Board of Appeals about this plan. May I have a motion?
Charlene's not here, so you're leaving it all to me.
Yeah.
I move that we send a positive recommendation to the zoning board for this small piece of driveway of secondary driveway.
Thank you,
I'll second. Bob Dubus, second it.
thank you. Bob Wirtschafter,
We're to have to approve.
Art Spru,
Art Spru, approve.
Warren Chain,
Warren Chain approved.
Megan Story,
Megan Story, approve.
Bob Dubus.
Bob Dubus, approve.
This is Catherine Halpern, I also approve. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
And thank you for all the clarifications. It was not clear, as I mentioned, it was not clear earlier when I reviewed the black and white plans, but this really helped.
Okay.
Thank you very much. All right, I'll just ask if there's any other comments from the public. We didn't have any comments from the public. If there are none, any other comments from board members? The chair has no comments, and therefore I would ask for a motion to adjourn this meeting.
I finally can make the motion to adjourn again.
Thank you. May I
I'll
have a second?
second it.
Bob Wirtschafter,
But we're to have to approve.
Art Spru,
Art Spru, approve.
Warren Chain,
Warren Chain approved.
Megan Story,
Megan Story, approve.
Bob Dubus.
Bob Dubus, approve.
This is Catherine Halpern. I also approve. Let's note the time as 6:16 in the evening, and thank you, everybody, for your participation, and please enjoy the rest of the evening.
Okay.